Okay, good morning. Welcome to all of our pre-K families. And if you are not a pre-K or 3K parent, we welcome you also. And to any of our staff members that have joined, I thank you guys for being on here as well. Welcome to, I think this is stop 5 in our 6 in our Listening to Learn tour. Really happy that you guys are all joining me today to hear a little bit about who I am as a leader, as well as a little bit about me as a parent too. So I'll talk to you a little bit about my own children, and then I'm going to share a few things that are really important for pre-K parents to keep in mind. One of them in the space of attendance. Another one in the space around resources for you as a parent that are accessible to you. And then lastly, I just want you guys to have the global view of what our priorities are this year, so that you have a snapshot of what that means for District 25. And then the very last space will be around any of you providing me with some feedback around the things thus far. If you're just entering our District 25 schools, things that you feel are going really well, things that you believe we need to continue to improve upon. And then lastly, any advice that you would have for me in this new role as interim acting superintendent for District 25. So we do have translation available for any of our parents that do need Spanish or Chinese translation. I'm going to ask that our members from our team share how you go about doing that right now. So Esther, if I can have you kind of come off mute and talk a little bit about how they can get some Spanish translation.
Buenos días a todos ustedes. Si necesitan interpretación en español, por favor, llamen al teléfono 347-966-4114 y por favor entren la numeración 924-686-436 asterístico y ahí los espero para interpretarles en español. Una vez más, aquí está en la pantalla el teléfono que tienen que marcar y el código que tienen que entrar. Gracias. Wing.
Thank you. Thank you
All
very
right.
much, Esther. Wing?
OK，Hi，你好。如果你是需要中文翻译的话，请你先打电话去347-966-4114，然后按154-683-266。包括最后这个符号 pound 也是需要你打的。最好的话，你就是可以用电脑线上这个 Zoom，然后呢再用电话打电话去347这个号码。谢谢。All right。
Thank you so much, Wing. So parents, just that, one of my first stops this year, and Louis, you can advance the slide. One of my first stops this year happened to be to the pre-K center in Whitestone, and I have to tell you, it's one of my more exciting times because having an opportunity to be around 3 and 4-year-olds as they're learning in a classroom, there's nothing better than that experience. So for me, as you can see in that bottom image, that facial expression that I have is exactly how I felt during that entire time that I was in the room environment with our youngest of learners. And that young man that I'm actually sitting there smiling with kind of gave me the entire tour of that classroom. And they were only there for the second day of school. He was showing me everything about his school bag, everything that he had in his school bag, and everything that he was learning in his centers. So, the pre-K, 3K environment that we do have here in the district, is an amazing place for our kids to learn and be part of. And I thank our leadership in all of our buildings, but certainly in our pre-K center, and welcoming Principal Lucas as part of our team. So we welcome her and her site coordinators as well, and Denise and oh my goodness, and I just lost my train of thought, and Lori as well. Sorry, Lori. Both of our site coordinators, we thank them for being on here today, supporting the pre-K centers. But it is an amazing place, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys in a few moments as I go through the rest of these slides. So just a little bit about me. I've been in the New York City public school system. This is now my 26th year. The first 25 of which were as an elementary school teacher. I was a middle school assistant principal, middle school principal, and then what they called a network leader, where I was in supporting schools across Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island. And then over the last 9 years, I was the deputy superintendent here in District 25. So I do know our schools quite well. We're going to continue to push forward in supporting positive outcomes over time. Big fan of athletics. I am a huge Knicks, Jets, Islanders, and Yankees fan. If none of those are the fandom that are the type of fan that you are, I apologize in advance. But those are the teams that I do support. So if you ever see me and want to kick up a conversation about it, I will be happy to do so. For me, family is super important. Not only the District 25 family, but my own from left to right. It's my wife, Jen, my daughter, Emily, and my son, Matthew. They mean a tremendously large amount to me. And, you know, the things that I do as a leader are often with my kids and my family in mind in terms of what would I do to make sure that that they are being supported or should be supported, and keeping that in mind as I think about the things that we need in District 25 to support all of our kids. So it kind of leads me into a little bit about professionally what I believe in. And, you know, whether you are a 3Ker or you are a student in our middle school or you are the adults in District 25, I believe in that everyone's got a responsibility to be a learner. And that includes myself. You know, we have to continue to work towards getting a better understanding of the needs of kids so we can make really good choices for them in our classrooms, so that our 3Kers and pre-Kers become really, really strong and ready to go for their kindergarten lives, which is going to happen in a blink, parents. I know that that's hard to believe, but in a blink, they'll be walking our halls of kindergarten in our elementary schools as kindergartners. So for me, the learning mindset is really important for us individually, but as a collective group across our district schools. And the last one I want to mention is around high expectations. All the ones in between really call to how we do that learning, but the last one is around high expectations. I really am a huge believer in the importance of us as educators to believe that every single one of our children can excel. And every single one of our children can strive towards meeting their own personal goals. And, you know, for us, when we lower those expectations, we're going to get lower outputs. So it is my firm belief that for every child that we have in our purview, that we are working towards those high levels of expectations for them. Our district mission, our citywide mission is that New York City Public Schools ensure that each student graduates on a pathway to a rewarding career and long-term economic security, equipped to be a positive force for change, which we have kind of connected to our own district-wide vision statement around building strong foundations in our learners, which you're going to see on the next slide. So taking from what the perspective of the citywide mission, our goal is that we're going to work collaboratively to really build strong foundations in our kids. And for our youngest learners in 3K and pre-K, they're gathering those experiences in lots of different ways. You know, and whether it's through the themes of their units or the centers that are part of those themes, you know, our kids are getting exposure to new language every single day. They're getting to use that language in the various room elements that they have inside of their classrooms. And we're starting to build those foundations right at the earliest of ages, you know, so that our kids over time really start learning to be empowered learners. And that includes having that opportunity of choice, which they start getting right in 3K and pre-K. So that idea that, you know, as learners, we want to be able to make choices for ourselves starts at the earliest of ages. And our kids learn through that and doing it in a productive way inside of our classrooms, so that they learn routines and they learn how to go about making sure that they're doing things with the type of care necessary for them to be learners. So our overarching vision for District 25 is really around building our kids so that they're making those positive changes for the future. You know, what is it, not only for themselves, but those that are around them. And they begin doing that in our schools as early as 3K. So we're super excited that we're actually able to offer that in District 25. Yeah, Louis, you can pass by this one. So I did want to make sure everyone knows that we do have a district site, which many of you use to get on here today. The affectionately refer to ourselves as Team Awesome. We do believe we have an amazing group of people that work here in the district office as well as in our schools. But at this site and through that link that you see here on this page, Lewis, if you can just click the link so that they can quickly see it. You're going to see all of the people that are responsible for supporting our district schools here on this page. And I'm not going to read through all of them, but each of our members here have a specific role in District 25 to support our schools. Esther and Jenny in particular are a huge support for our families. Esther being one that is translating right now. I do encourage you, if there are things that you need, they have their email addresses and they are accessible to you guys at all times to reach out and get some of that support. We do have a series of instructional leads that you can see here that support improving practice across our buildings from the space of early childhood all the way through our middle schools. We have health and wellness support. We have support for the rollout of 2 programs, which I'm going to mention to you just briefly, just so that you're aware of it, in the form of HMH. I'm going to talk to you briefly about that. We have folks that are here also to make sure that our students are receiving the special ed services that they need, the English language learner services they need, the social emotional learning support that they need. Wing, who is here translating for us in Chinese, is our district social worker. She helps schools in receiving the resources that they might need outside of perhaps even the things that are happening in school, but things that families might need in order to support their families. We have Austin, who's our district attendance coordinator. I'm going to talk to you about attendance in just a moment. Janet is my administrative assistant. We have Marissa, who helps spearhead all of our community-wide events, connecting with local elected officials, our principals, and the like, to make sure that we have opportunities for our families like this one to communicate with you. So that's just a very brief overview, but all of that information is there. I encourage you, if you're not sure who to reach out to and you need someone, you can go right to that site and get access to the information that you need from the district perspective. Always go to the school, obviously, if you need anything, but if you need something else, you're always welcome to call us at the district level. So the Listening to Learn tour is part of my 90-day plan, which you will have access to as well. Lewis, you can advance that slide. The Listen to Learn tour, we've gone to now. This is within the virtual space, but this is our second virtual experience. The rest of them have all been in person in the sites that are listed below. The next one up is PS20, and the final one will be at PS164. We've had successful events at 129, 184, 185, and 214. One site, we had almost 550 people there, which was an amazing, amazing experience from that community. So I thank all of our building leaders that have created an opportunity for us to visit and utilize their space to connect with families and our kids. So the 90-day plan, if you have a phone, you can access it via the QR code that's on the right or the link that is all the way at the bottom to see a little bit more around what that 90-day plan includes. Basically, in a nutshell, the 4 elements that are outside of the tree are the ways that we're going to really promote excellence, promote equity and diversity, wellness and safety, and engagement and empowerment. And those 4 things, and you'll hear these a lot in District 25, this space around what we call and refer to multi-tiered systems of support. Those are ways that we're using data inside of our everyday life in schools to ensure that our kids are receiving the best instruction in the classroom. If that instruction is not having the impact that we need, it gives schools the ability to start asking questions around what other services can we offer our kids in the form of what we call Tier 2. That means small group type of experiences for our learners. And then Tier 3 is where we have real intensive supports for our kids that may need it. And that varies across grade levels, certainly. In our 3K and pre-K classrooms, the data that they gather is a little bit different than what we gather in our upper grades from kindergarten through 5. But they do have information that they use too, much of which is in that space of observing our kids and seeing how they're interacting in their learning spaces. so that they can offer them that corrective feedback to make those adjustments. So this is happening in our 3K and pre-K classrooms as well. Professional learning is really important to us, making sure that all of our folks in our schools have access to PL to support their teaching practices. Shared and inclusive curriculum across every single one of our schools in K through 5. We're implementing the same program, and that program is into reading from HMH and into literature in grades 6 through 8. Our pre-K schools, not this school year, but next school year, all of our pre-K classrooms will be using the same curriculum and the same assessment across every single building. Right now, that particular curriculum is being used at the pre-K centers as kind of the driving force for how we're going to grow into the new program come 24-25. So that is in process, and we're looking forward to growing that across our schools. And partnering with the community, this is part of it, but there are all the other ways as the year is going to go on where we're going to have district-wide types of events and activities for our communities to get involved in. Some of them will be happening in the next couple of weeks. On the 24th and the 26th, we're working collaboratively with Councilmember Palladino and Councilmember Sandra Ung to create a book event where kids across our elementary school grade levels and certainly our pre-K families that wish to come as well for what we're calling a spooktacular book event where kids and families will be able to come and experience a book giveaway at both of those, at Casino Park and Bound Park. Flyers are available to you guys on our district site for anyone that would like to join. All are welcome. The last time that we had this event in August, we had over 1,000 people there. And I'm looking forward to a similar type of output for this. We do encourage our kids to come as they would maybe their favorite character. Come dressed as your favorite character. You're welcome to do that to kind of enjoy the rest of the afternoon with us during those days. And I encourage you guys as families to come. So starting off stronger, you'll see this notion of strong across all of our work in the district. It does stand for, a number of the things that I refer to around making sure that we're making really strategic decisions for our kids. And this year, from the strong to stronger, Louis, you can go to the next slide. The stronger part is really around us making sure that we're evaluating and studying the things that we're doing inside of our classrooms, what's working, what's not working, and then making really, really cohesive decisions after that with action steps, not going into this space where we recognize something as a need, but recognizing and then responding with action. So those last two letters is something that we've added to our work this year. And not that it was not necessarily there, but we're emphasizing it a great deal more this school year, is that response with action. So chronic absenteeism is an important space. And the reason why I want to talk to you as families about this morning is because patterns of attendance begin in the earliest of ages. Attendance is being identified as the new national crisis in terms of education. 13% of the student population, 1 in 8, were chronically absent in 2013-14. And chronic absenteeism is defined as any child missing 10% or more of the school year. That accounts for 18 days during a given year. And sometimes what happens, and oftentimes what happens is that a child might miss a couple of days a month, and we might think about it as a parent as this is not really that big of a deal. But by the end of the year, it does become a significant amount of time that is missed, which does create gaps in students' learning. And what I'm going to share with you is just some data over the next couple of slides that should give you a little bit of pause as a parent, just to kind of be mindful of the importance of having our kids in school every day. And granted, that's not saying, what, Dr. D'Antona, if my child is sick, I'm not sending them, and I am completely on board with that. I understand. But it's all those other times that maybe they are not in attendance when they could be, that we want to make sure that we curb that. So a couple of statements in a true false type of space, and we don't necessarily have to answer them out loud or anything, but I'm going to quickly go through them. Absenteeism in the first month of school can predict poor attendance throughout the school year. Half the students who miss 2 to 4 days in September go on to miss nearly a month of school by the end of the year. Statement 2, by 6th grade, chronic absence becomes a leading indicator that a student will drop out of high school. And statement 3, children who miss 18 or more school days of the school year, starting in kindergarten, are less likely to learn to read by 3rd grade and graduate from high school. So if you had to guess what those were, and Lewis already advanced the slide, so all of those statements are true. Every one of those statements.
It's Marissa. It's not me. Marissa's doing the slides.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Lewis doesn't want to be the guilty party. It's okay. So all of those statements are true. And attendance and good attendance begins in our earliest of grades. And oftentimes inside of our pre-K, you know, we look at it as though it's not that big of a deal if my child at 4 years old doesn't go to school. And you know, what we do want to avoid is this pattern that can begin in our youngest of grade ages, because our kids are recognizing that, oh, you know what, maybe today won't be a day that we go to school. You know, so it creates a pattern that becomes difficult for you as parents at times to break, because our kids get accustomed to saying that, oh, I don't want to go to school today. Okay, next slide. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So in District 25, right now, we have over 4,000 students that would have missed already 2 or more days this school year, which would put them at risk of being chronically absent for the school year. If that pattern was to continue 2 days per month over the course of the year, that's exactly what would wind up happening. So right now, it equates to almost 10% of our, 18% of our district population, if the pattern was to continue, would be deemed chronically absent. When it comes to our pre-K students, and this number might catch some of you guys off guard, but chronic absenteeism in our pre-K programs is over 30% of our pre-K children that are currently enrolled are already out 2 or more days for the start of this school year. So it's important that we kind of talk about this so that everyone knows what the impact can be. You can go to the next slide, Marissa. So the impact is pretty significant. So when we think about who can read on grade level after 3rd grade, it completely impacts whether or not that's the case. So 64% of kids with good attendance in K and 1 were able to read on or above grade level by kindergarten and 1st grade. 43% of kids with at risk, meaning they missed 9 days for both of those years. The percentage of children reading on grade level by 3rd grade was 43%. Kids chronically absent in K or 1 missed 18 days, or more days in 1 year. Their proficiency was 41% of those kids were able to read on grade level by grade 3. And then this one is an important one. Only 17% of kids that were chronically absent in both K and 1 were able to be proficient readers by the time they got into grade 3. And those are really important metrics because we don't necessarily see it as such sometimes because we don't realize that days begin accumulating. But when they do have a really, really big impact on our kids as learners. So something for you guys to be mindful of as parents, just making sure that you recognize that the number of days that a child is absent will impact their ability to become really solid readers. And one of our training courses that we offered last year, part of that course was around teaching adults a new alphabet, just to get them exposure to how the alphabet worked. And one of the adults had to, get up and use the restroom. And when she came back, she was unable to know where they were in this new alphabet because she missed some of the teaching by the teacher. Same thing is happening to our kids when they are not present for things that they need to learn inside of that alphabet. It makes it harder for them to, it doesn't mean they can't catch up, but it makes it harder for them to do that. So it's just something to be connected with as a parent. I know there are lots of reasons why at times that our kids may be out, but that's where we also connect with our schools to make sure that we're getting the support necessary, so that we don't run into this space of our kids being absent with the frequency that causes chronic absenteeism. So frequent absences are also a sign that students losing interest in school, struggling with schoolwork, dealing with other children that they might be having struggles with. So they're important that, you know, even at the middle school level, when we start talking about these things, that all begins in our earlier grades, you know, and can manifest themselves when they get older in other ways too. You know, that whole space of losing interest is something that begins early on. And they become predictors for graduation rates, you know, by the 9th grade, more so than even test scores. Go ahead, Marissa. So when we get to the question and answer part, which we'll do in a few moments, I encourage you guys to really ask any questions that you might have about that. All of those things are research-based. They're not necessarily mic-based. They are all things that are out there in the world of doing research on attendance and its impact. So I encourage you to please make sure you ask any questions that you might have in relationship to that. Go ahead, Marissa. So resources at the school, every school has a team that's connected to providing attendance supports. So every building, you know, is looking at our data on a routine basis and very well may be connecting with you when your child is out. I do encourage you, reaching out to your school is super important for additional resources. If you're not sure what it is that you can do, you're having difficulty with your child because they don't want to come to school, it's really important that you're connecting with, if those of you at the pre-K center, with Ms. Lucas, but if you're also from any of our regular buildings that have pre-K, our elementary school buildings that have pre-K, please make sure you're reaching out to your building leader so that they can offer that support necessary to make sure that your children are coming and not giving you a hard time. I know that sometimes that happens too for our families for a variety of different reasons. So connect with your schools if you're seeing that as a pattern that exists for you as a parent. So Attendance Works offers a series of different resources from boosting your child's confidence. The links are here, the QR codes there, it'll bring you right to the site. To offer you different strategies to use as a parent to help build your child's confidence. Go ahead, Marissa. To keep your child on track with schoolwork. Also a space for you guys as a resource. Keeping your child healthy, you know, reducing the amount of time your children, to help support the reduction in the amount of time your children are at school. And each of these links brings you to a series of kind of things that you can do as a parent. Go ahead, Marissa. Okay. So really quickly, just also want to offer parent supports. And Marissa, can you click on that second link there? So these are all on the Department of Education site. This is a little, it's a little bit big right now, but we'll shrink it up for you. On the Department of Education site, there are a series of resources for you as a parent and things that you can do to, you know, to do some of those activities at home. And I encourage you to utilize this link. You know, it does offer some things. And keep going. Scroll all the way down. So blocks and construction. Nope, not all the way. Keep going. Go back up. So things like dramatic play. It offers you suggestions in terms of the Play Store, taking care, faces and feelings. These are all things that you can do at home with your kids to help build their language, but also build their knowledge in a variety of different ways. Connecting with things like art, using materials. Sometimes we think that we have to have specific supplies. And often, guys, you can do a lot of these fun things with your kids at 3K and pre-K with just the things that you have at your disposal in your home. Letting kids become creative and thinking outside of the box around things that they see that they can make out of household materials. Sometimes, you know, it might surprise you what your kids are able to come up with just a couple of handheld, you know, household tools that you have in the home. So I encourage you, look at some of these things for yourselves at home. If you're not sure how to go about doing these things, connect with your buildings, with your building leaders, and your teachers to offer support. But they're really great activities for you to connect with your kids on. I know as a parent, it was often, what do I do for my 3-year-old, 4-year-old, my kindergartner to really connect with them in the space of building their language and building their creativity. But all of these things are here for you at your disposal to connect with in different ways. Thank you, Marissa.
Sorry, 1 second.
No, you're good. So as a district, we have 5 priorities. I'm not going to go through these in any great length, but I do want to kind of just mention them to you. They are aligned with our chancellor's expectations. So priority 1 is all children learn to read well. This is primarily a goal for our early childhood schools, including our focus in 3K and pre-K, is to build our kids so that they're ready to go by the time they get into kindergarten, so that we're advancing the number of children that are able to read by grade 3. So in district, we're using programs like Heggerty and Foundations. Our pre-K programs are also working towards building those skills through their various units of study that they offer in their classrooms. We're also using a program called MindUp, just something that for you guys to be familiar with. MindUp is a program where we're teaching kids how to learn how to manage themselves, and make really good choices. And these decisions happen in our earliest of ages. So MindUp is an SEL program that all schools in District 25 are using to make sure that our kids are getting the skills necessary to be really good citizens. This is more of an upper grade goal for our kids across grade levels in kindergarten through 8, but we're really focused on improving outcomes from New York State assessments by a minimum of 5%. Goal is to really create small group instruction. This does connect in its way to the work in our pre-K and 3K classrooms as well, making sure that our kids are receiving what they need and the feedback necessary to grow as learners. But our goal is that we grow by a minimum of 5% before the end of the year. This one is our math goal, just so that you guys are aware. I mean, we are looking to build our kids' algebra readiness as early as our 3K and pre-K programs. But our focus this year is going to be on grades 5 through 8, in particular, to really make sure that our kids that are taking the algebra regents in the 8th grade are ready to go and are successful as possible. So our focus here is around building in math routines and supporting our kids to be problem solvers. And lastly, it's around making sure that our programs, that we're offering opportunities for our families to engage in not necessarily workshops, because I think sometimes our communities get workshopped out, but that we're offering opportunities for our families to connect with schools in different ways to learn about the programs that we offer. So that they not only have awareness, but access as parents to participate with their kids. And to me, that often becomes the space where we make the most traction, is when you guys are doing things with your children aligned to the work that we're doing inside of our schools. So our goal is to really bolster our parent engagement as the year goes on. And now the last part is about hearing from you. So you got a little bit of time to hear from me. But I'd love to hear some of your feedback as parents, things that you believe that we are doing well, things that you believe that we need to strengthen as a district community, and any advice that you may have for me. You're welcome to do this in a couple of different ways, because we are in Zoom. You're welcome to add some of your feedback in the chat. You can add it via email to event@d25.nyc. or a Google form at d25.nyc/feedback. There are multiple ways for you guys to share your perspectives with us here in the district community. And you're also able to come off mute. We can take you off of mute if you'd like to share it out loud with all of our community members. So feel free. I would love to hear from any of you in terms of your thoughts around what we're doing well currently as a district. Anything that you wish to shout out for us to hear, I would love for you to come off of mute or share it in the chat. And if you'd like to talk out loud, please feel free to use your Zoom functions just to raise your hand. We'll make sure that we unmute you if you'd like to say something more.
I've let everyone can unmute themselves. If anyone wants to start
Perfect.
talking, that's fine too.
Perfect.
I see Kathy's unmuted. Kathy T, do you have something to say, Kathy?
Yes, for some reason I can't myself, so I'm just going to start talking. I just want to shout out how great job the District 25 Center is, the one located in Whitestone. School is really necessary. I try everything before I send my daughter to school, but now she picks up math skill, she picks up reading skill, and she can jump with both feet off the floor. She's and she's like a total different person. She's very energetic, and she's how should I say it? Like before I send her to school, she's shy. She doesn't want to socialize with other kids. She's very clingy, but now she's like a total different kid. I have to shout out how great job they did over there, and how amazing the teachers are. They really treat the kids like the kids are their own kids, own children.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much, Kathy, for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And you know, it's amazing what happens to our little ones from moment to moment and how they grow in such a short period of time. So I'm really, really pleased to hear that her experience has been such a positive one, where she's been able to go from that shy little girl to a growing learner inside of our schools in such a short period of time. So thank you for sharing that.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Does anyone in our translation rooms have any questions or comments?
Nothing in Spanish.
Thank you, Esther. Wing, anyone need have any questions or comments?
We don't have any question. Thank you.
Okay. So from the space of doing things well to a space of things that we need to strengthen. And I encourage, I know sometimes it's difficult to share out even in a Zoom type of meeting. So if you're more likely to complete it in a feedback form and you feel more comfortable that way, you know, feel free to do so there as well, because we do read everything that comes in. We do make sure that we're going to connect as part of this process. There will be a kind of a summary of all of the things that we've learned and the actions that we're going to put in place based on the feedback that we are receiving. So if it's not here in the virtual space, I do encourage you to use some of the other digital tools that we have available to us to share some of your feedback, because we do take it very seriously. But anyone have anything that they would like to kind of shout out in terms of areas to strengthen?
Buenos días.
Hi.
Hi. Well, I just would like to say, I would like to say, I'm so happy with Principal Mrs. Barassi in PS20. She's doing an excellent job. I am so happy with her. So I just want to say, I'm pretty sure she worked with you and she's doing excellent at PS20. So she's doing so great. I love her.
Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
Thank you so much, Ms. Espinoza.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
We're going to be at PS20 tomorrow night. You should come down
I'll
and
be there.
come meet us in person. Yep, good.
Yes,
Come say
I'll
hi.
be there. See you tomorrow.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow. That's great. And thank you to our parents that are saying thank you in the chat. I appreciate you guys for being on here as well. Please always know that we're always open for the space of feedback, and you have Esther and Jenny here at all times too at the district office if you feel like you need to call in, especially if you do need Spanish or Chinese translation. They're here for that also. And if it's a language outside of that you don't feel comfortable in connecting with us in English, then we can get those other translations available for you too. So always don't hesitate to connect with us at the district level. But I do want to thank all of you for being on here. I will remain on for as long as everyone else is on to answer any of those individual questions that you may have, and maybe perhaps you're too shy to to engage in that conversation with us. But other than that, I wish all of you guys an amazing day. I thank you for taking just the 45 minutes with me this morning to hear a little bit about who I am as a leader and where we're going as a district. So I thank you guys again for being here, and hope you have an amazing rest of your day.
Thank you, Dr. Mike.
Thank you, Judy.
I just wanted to take a minute to thank Kathy for being such an incredible parent and being so involved. She was with us last year, and she attended all our workshops, the parent chats, and she was just amazing, and we're so grateful to have parents like her.
Love it. Thank you so much for calling that out, Judy.
Thank you, Dr. Mike. It's very nice.
Thank you, Jennifer, for being on. Much appreciated.
Yes, of course.
I'll send you guys the link to the recording so that you can circulate it with your families that might have missed the presentation. Okay.
Yeah, great.